Okay, good morning and welcome to today's session. I know it's a Saturday, you're all waiting for that Sunday to come, but today we have a very interesting topic, group discussion, which you've all heard before, maybe in some context or the other, and we've already discussed this topic the other day, but there are a few things that you all should be aware of as you're going into degree. That's why I've extended it for one more session so that you know how to behave, how to speak, how to initiate, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do during a group discussion. So I'm K. Shailaja Rao, soft skill trainer at Aditya Global Business School, Surampalam. And today we're going to have a very simple discussion on group discussion. So are you all ready with your pen and books? Yeah. For this I need your pen and books because group discussion is something that will not end with just getting a job or just to do something in class. This is going to be a part of your life. If you're planning to work in the future, after your degree, after your PG, group discussion will be a part of your life for as long as you're working, right? What I mean is a formal group discussion. So you should know exactly how to behave, how to speak, how to prepare for a group discussion. As we already discussed before, a group discussion is a formal discussion on a given topic with about 7 to 12 participants who sit in either a circle or a square or sometimes it's horseshoe shaped. You know what a horseshoe is, right? It's like a U, okay? So like a U, and you sit in that circle and there is a moderator who is assessing you, who is judging you, who is listening to you. This is done for various reasons. Sometimes it's done in interviews so that you can be either selected or rejected. Most of the time it's called a rejection round because more people are rejected than selected after a group discussion. And even in companies, when you join an organization, you might have a group discussion on a topic or on an issue, on a problem. And you should know how to behave and how to speak, how to get your point across. So that's why this topic is very important. I hope you all have your pens and books handy. So let's dive right into it. So as the name suggests, this is not a debate. It's okay. This is second slide. Yeah, it's fine. So it is not a debate. It is not something you shout over the, about somebody and you're fighting to see who's correct or who is better. It's not a debate. In a group discussion, there need not be a winner in the sense that all are winners. Everybody has contributed to the conversation. Everybody has contributed to the discussion and come out winners. You come out of a group discussion knowing more about the topic than when you entered the group discussion. That's how it should be. That's how a group discussion, a good group discussion ends. You become more knowledgeable about a certain topic after you have discussed it. Like I told you, I gave you an example of how you discuss a movie with your friends after you watch a movie. It could be any hit movie you saw and then you come the next day and you discuss it, and you probably somebody will point out probably a defect or something that was extraordinary in the movie, and you say, yeah, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I notice that? Only after that person tells you, you notice that, right? And you could also say something that was not very good in the movie. So you don't notice these things sometimes. So somebody has to point out those things to you. And then you realize that, yes, this is true. So even group discussions are like that. You learn more about the topic. So you should have, it is not to win or lose, as I told you. And if you like, it's like an informal discussion. If you like the movie, you like the movie. There's no hard and fast rule that everybody else who's seen the movie has to like it, right? It is your point of view. You liked something. The other person may not like it so much. or may not like it at all. So you are not here to judge somebody because they don't like it. They have their own valid reasons for why. Suppose the topic of a group discussion is, okay, should cell phones be allowed in colleges? Okay, this is a very hot topic, and I'm sure all the youth, all the children will say, yes, madam, yes, cell phones should be allowed in colleges. And then there might be some who might say that no, cell phones should not be allowed in colleges because of various reasons. So at the end, the people who say cell phones should be allowed will learn or will become aware of why they should not be allowed. Probably somebody has come out with some statistics, some facts, some real-time data which they will support their opinion. And then the person even who says that in the beginnings that cell phones should be allowed, maybe towards the end of the discussion, he will be sort of convinced or at least half convinced that yes, maybe cell phones are not such a good idea after all. So you could change your point of view in the end. So it's not that you start with some point and then you have to stick to it throughout the group discussion. There are chances that you could change your point of view, which cannot happen in a debate. In a debate, if you start out saying, you start out against the topic, you have to stick with that and prove that you are against the topic and try to win. So this is a group discussion, anything can happen. As we go along, I'll give you some more tips. So what is being assessed in a group discussion? We are always talking about group discussion. Then what is the person who is standing there, whom we call the moderator, who could be your teacher, who could be your anybody. You know, when we have group discussions in college, we have a faculty who is standing there and having a piece of paper, and they are trying to assess you. So what are they looking for? Are they looking only for subject knowledge, whether you know a lot about the topic, or are they looking for something else? Let's see what you're being assessed for. Okay? The first is command over spoken English. The thing is, we are all in this, world of business where everything, especially the education business and in the education field, today English is the language of education in most of the countries, especially in India. Right? If you have to go ahead in your career, in your education, you have to have a command over English. So you have to learn more English, speak more English, write you always do, I'm sure. You write all your exams in English. Even then, with all your written skills, you still have a fear, some of you, not all of you, a fear of speaking in English. So you have to get a command over the English language. Does not mean you have to be, say big words like Shashi Tharoor or, some of these great literary scholars. You just have to have a command over functional English, just simple sentences. Actually in English there is a principle called KISS. Don't get me wrong, it is not the KISS principle, it is KISS. What does it mean? It means keep it short and simple. So always follow this principle. Keep it short and simple, whether you're writing sentences or whether you're speaking sentences. When you speak also, if you keep them short, the person who is listening to you understands you better. And even you will not get confused on, what did I start the sentence with? Oh, I started like that, now I'm ending it. So that confusion will not be there for you as a speaker and for the person who's listening to you. So always speak simple sentences, short sentences. And also simple words. Simple words is okay. It's not necessary to speak long, big words to impress someone. The other day we heard the word loquacious. Okay, loquacious means somebody who's very talkative, who can speak for a long time on any given topic. But that word probably will not be understood by many people. So you may not be able to, it may not sound, but if you're confident, if somebody asks you the meaning, what that means, you should be able to tell them. Then you can use the word. Okay, so maybe once in a while to use a good word or a rare word or a strong word is recommended because it shows your knowledge about more vocabulary than the rest of the group. So maybe one or two words is okay, but if you are speaking in very high vocabulary, everybody may not understand. But the main thing in a group discussion is to be understood. So knowledge base, whatever you do, they say, communication is all about body language, it's all about how you look, how you speak, the tone of your voice and all these things, right? They say 93% is about everything else. And it's only 7%, the words only matter 7%. But we must remember that this 7% is very, very important, because it is around this 7% that everything else rests. You may sit in the perfect position, you may have a lovely voice, you may have good grammar and great vocabulary, but if you have no knowledge on the topic, will you be successful? Right? Whether you're standing in front of a podium, giving a speech, or whether you're giving a presentation, or whether in a group discussion, without that 7%, you can't be there, right? So this 7% also matters. You have to do your homework for that 7%. 7% is the knowledge you have, is the knowledge about the topic. That is also very, very important. Unless you do that homework, unless you're confident about that 7%, the rest of it, the rest of the 93% will not follow. You know, if you're not confident about the topic, can you stand confidently in front of the audience? Or can you stand confidently in front of, in a group discussion, or sit confidently? No, because you're not confident. So knowledge is important. Whenever you get a chance, pick a topic, do some research on that topic. Research means for you it's so easy. You just have to Google that topic. You will get thousands of sites where there's information on that. First one may be Wikipedia. Don't always go by Wikipedia, because Wikipedia may not be that perfect. I'm not saying it's wrong. Most of the time it's okay. But maybe you should check one or two more sites before you confirm some data from Wikipedia. Okay, some numbers may be a little here and there. So always do a lot of homework on the topic. Note down, suppose we are talking about literacy in India. So the topic for discussion could be literacy in India. So all of you understand what literacy means, right? The ability to read and write for anybody is called literacy. So is literacy in India satisfactory? So how do we improve literacy in India? So we were talking about that topic. What should you do about, it's not enough to know just the meaning of that topic. It is important that you get some data on that topic. How do you get data? What is the literacy rate in India? Okay, first, all over India. Then you could go further and see what is the literacy rate in Andhra Pradesh. Compare it to other states in India. Do you know which state has the highest literacy rate in India? So Kerala, can you tell me what is the literacy percent? Yeah, you gave me the answer, Kerala, which is right. Fantastic, well done. But what is the percentage of literacy in Kerala? So exactly, that's how you should speak in a group discussion. When you say Kerala has the highest literacy rate, everybody knows it. But if you say, according to the data in 2011, Kerala has a literacy rate of 82% or 89%, whatever the data says at that point of time, if you are able to give that along with the date, the year, it is more authentic. It is more evidence. It shows that you have done your homework, that you have more knowledge on the topic. So that's exactly what I mean when you say you have to do your research. Okay, as simple as that. Then you should always know the second and the third, and of course where your state stands, and then you talk about how you can improve literacy in your state or the whole of India, what can be done to improve the literacy rate, not generally we always blame the government, saying the government should do this, the government should do that. Don't do that, that comes out as very 96.2, second highest is Uttarakhand. Yes, very good. So, very good, good answers, very good. You're all following very well, fantastic, I like that. So, what I'm trying to say is, when in a group discussion, have a positive attitude. Do not blame somebody for something. If I say literacy rate, don't blame the government saying the government can do this, the government. As a youth, as a young person, what can you do? How can you help your state? How you can encourage your maid's children to go to school? How can you tell your maid that you send them to school? Don't stop them after 8th standard or 9th standard or 10th standard. Let them study further, or let them study first thing. So how can you help? So those little things you should be able to speak in a group discussion. Not that the government should do this, the government should do that. Come out as a positive person who is not waiting for somebody else to do something, but who is able to do something on his own. So let's not digress from the topic. Knowledge base. So your knowledge base should be good. If you do not have the perfect knowledge, then you will beat around the bush. You will speak something, which is not very, and the person who's judging you, assessing you, will know that you don't know. And then convincing part. In a group discussion, it's good to have convincing part, but how do you get the convincing part? Again, only because of knowledge. If you have knowledge, then you can base your words on facts. Whatever you say, you can say according to the data that we received in 2011, this is the highest, this is the second highest, and how did they come to achieve that? You can speak whenever you have evidence to prove whatever you're saying is right. You have the convincing part, you can convince people, right? So if you suppose cell phones to college or not, if you have data on how many students who carry cell phones, what is the pass percentage or what is the highest percentage, there is research being done on all these things. So if you find out and you come with that percentage, you will be able to convince the audience or the group discussion that you are right. So that convincing power should also be there, not only your the data, but the way you speak also. And then body language. As always, body language plays such an important role in communication. I'm sure all of you have been watching the Olympic results, right? Did you see when Narendra Modi, recently I saw on WhatsApp, how when Narendra Modi was congratulating the hockey team, what did the men's hockey team win in the Olympics? Our hockey players did India proud by winning the bronze medal. Very good. And there was a recent WhatsApp message where I saw Narendra Modi congratulating the Indian team on winning the bronze, and their body language showed how proud they were and how happy they were and how satisfied they were on winning the bronze medal. Their body language said it all. Even the coach stood tall, and all the players stood. See, I'm having goosebumps even thinking about that proud moment when India won the bronze medal. Okay? So, at the same time, there was another video which showed the body language of the Indian women's hockey team, who also fought very hard, but due to bad luck, or probably the luck was better on the other side, they lost the bronze medal and they stood in 4th place. So, and Narendra Modi ji very nicely spoke even to them, saying you did a good job, you did a wonderful job, great coming in that place, you fought really hard, but their body language showed disappointment, grief, sadness, as if, so they were all humped together, most of them were crying, and they had their shoulders bent, as if they had lost something. Of course, they had lost the bronze medal, but then they did very good by playing very hard. Even they lost by just one goal. So what I'm trying to say is, if we didn't show you the video, if we just showed you a picture of the men's hockey team and the women's hockey team and ask you to judge who won, you will easily say that the men's hockey team won because of their body language. And you would also say that these people lost just looking at them. So body language plays a vital role in any sort of communication, and especially in a group discussion also plays a very important role. So, generally, if when you hear something that you don't like, what do? Or, you turn sideways, you give a doubtful look. So all these things, even when you say that even if you don't say that you don't agree, your body language gives you away. So you have to be very careful on how you look and how you behave during a group discussion. No pointing fingers, no shaking head when somebody is speaking. You don't agree to somebody's point of view, stay calm. Don't shake your head while they are speaking, saying, no, that's wrong. Just nod once in a while. That shows that you're listening. Again, do not start taking notes and not listen to anybody else. That is also a very bad sign, which shows that you're not paying attention to what the other person is saying. So body language is very important. These are some of the signs that show that you're not into the group discussion. So first thing, you should sit straight, sit with a good posture, lean slightly to the front, because when you lean front, it shows that you're interested. Don't put all your hands on the tables, hold them in your lap. If you have a pen and paper, better to keep it in your lap with something, or if you have to keep it on the table, don't occupy too much space on the table, just your part of the table. And then do not keep on, tapping the pen, or some people will play with the pen. You can hear that sound, right? How you're making that sound. So all these things will show your nervousness if you do that. So don't make those gestures. And when somebody is speaking, look at them. Smile. When you're speaking, smile. Look at everybody in the group, not just the person who's going to judge you or assess you. So don't look at the moderator. Try to look at everybody else when you're speaking, because it's a group discussion, not a discussion for one person. So all these are signals of good body language. And then maturity. What people want when they're looking at a group discussion is a person who can handle any topic with emotional intelligence or with maturity. When sometimes, when we say, should cell phones be allowed in college, there might be somebody who will argue, say, yes, cell phones should be allowed because because women or girls are not safe nowadays and cell phones should be allowed in college. Then till 10 or 15 years ago, cell phones were not there. So before 15 years, no girls went to college. All the girls who went to college were unsafe. They didn't come back home. Of course they did, right? So you can talk like that. So you should not get emotional. You could say, this is for our safety that we carry the cell phones. It is to get information. As students, what is that urgent information you need in a day where you can't be away from your cell phone? Nothing, right? Nothing. Probably only your parents need to know, but then once you're into that bus, school bus, college bus, they know that you're in a safe place. So all these arguments could be just excuses. So people were safe then without cell phones. They studied even then without cell phones. We need cell phones to study. Do you study on cell phones every day in college? No, right? If I have to tell you frankly, I know what you people do. how much you study at home. So, but then today cell phones have become very important because it is online classes, and for online classes these have become important. So they have their benefits, but then you need not get emotional on something. Somebody can say group discussion on love marriages and arranged marriages. You need not get emotional or shout. So how maturely, how convincingly you can put your point across, or how can you handle the opposition. Or when you say something, somebody there always contradicts you, will you get angry at the other person? No, you should be able to take contradiction also, take opposition also. And how do you handle pressure? You could be the only one saying cell phone should not be allowed. Everybody in the group says cell phone should be allowed. So cell phone should be allowed. So you should not become all pressurized and say, oh my God, I'm the only one. Be confident that you're the only one, and maybe because you're the only one, you will be the best one. Okay? And then mingles, follows, leads the team. And so let's go ahead. I'll have to move a little quickly so that I can cover the topics. Then, till now we saw what the moderator assesses. Today, let's also discuss what are the types of candidates that are in a group discussion. In the sense that when you speak, what sort of a person are you? Are you a jumper, a troublemaker, a balancer, an interrogator, a silencer, or are you a leader? So we will learn how not to behave in a GD and how to be a leader. Okay? So if you know what is wrong, you can do it the right way. So let's see what are these types. So who is a jumper in a GD? So jumpers, this is just a term given to the candidates, to people who behave in that way. So who is a jumper? A jumper is one who will jump right into the topic as soon as the group discussion starts. Suppose it's literacy, whether they have an idea or not, whether they have the content or not, just because in a group discussion it is always appreciated, or if you initiate the group discussion, that is, if you start speaking immediately, anybody who takes the lead is considered to be a leader, and you get some extra points for that. So just to get those extra points, if you jump at the topic and say something, maybe today's group discussion is about the literacy rate in India, and as we all know, Kerala has the highest literacy rate, and doesn't know anything further. So that candidate doesn't know anything more, and then I would like somebody else to speak from here, or just stops at that. You know that he's a jumper because he doesn't have much information on the topic. So you should only speak when you have enough information on the topic, otherwise you will be considered a jumper. And what do you do? So how should you be when not to be a jumper? That is, you should have 2 or 3 strong points about the topic if you want to start. So before you initiate, think of 2 or 3. That's why whenever a group discussion topic is given, you should take, generally even the moderators or whoever is judging will give you 3 to 5 minutes to prepare for the topic. Prepare means you cannot get information, you cannot get knowledge right there. You just have to logically put your points on paper. So because sometimes you may not remember everything at a go, so you just put your main points on the paper. By just looking at that paper once, at a glance you should be able to speak about it. So you should have at least 2 or 3 important points about the topic if you want to start. Okay? And then suppose you know 10 important points about the topic. Even then, you should not speak all the 10 points at once. You speak for about 30 seconds, 20 seconds, and then let somebody speak. The other 3 points you will speak at the next, whenever you get a chance next, or whenever you take the next opportunity to speak. So speaking just once in a group discussion is not enough. Some people think if I start and then I'm the leader and that's it, my job is done. Wrong. You have to speak more than once in a group discussion, depending on how much time is given, maybe 2 or 3 times, and with valid points. Not just saying, yes, yes, I agree to what he says, I agree to what she says. Not like that. You should have valid points, and then you should be able to, speak more than once in a group discussion. So do not be a jumper. Think. And you should also have the presence of mind to think on your toes. That is, you should be able to think and listen to the others and add points to that. Next, the troublemakers. Who are these? We don't want troublemakers anywhere, right? Not in a group discussion, not anywhere, not in class, not at home. So troublemakers are the people who they have nothing to add, but they will contradict everybody else. They will say, no, 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 I do not agree with her, I do not agree with him, I don't think that is right. So these people are called troublemakers, and they do not do it softly. All they want to do is prove the others are wrong. But do they have valid points of their own? No. So do not be a troublemaker. So what you do not to be a troublemaker is you should be open to other suggestions. It's not necessary that whatever you say is right, whatever you say is, gospel truth. No, you should be open in a group discussion. You should accept other points of view also. You should accept things from somebody else's viewpoint. So you should not always contradict everybody else. Listen carefully and very politely you can say, I'm sure she is right, but I have another point of view, and you can contradict them, but very politely. What she says may be right, but there's another angle to it, and then you can continue, right? So do not always just contradict and be a troublemaker. Next, balancers. So these people are sometimes called the smarties. Why? Because they are not jumpers. So they are like, they will say, I agree with what Mr. Ravi said, and they will add one small sentence which is again what Ravi said only. They will just rephrase it or paraphrase it. They will say it in a different structure. But it will basically be about like, suppose somebody started saying literacy in India is not very high, but Kerala has the highest literacy rate, next only followed by Uttarakhand or the other state, and then suppose this fellow says, yes, I agree with what Mr. Ravi said, that Kerala has the highest literacy rate in India and we must all follow that example. So actually, has he added anything else to what Mr. Ravi said? No, right? He's just reiterated or rephrased or repeated what Mr. Ravi said. So, and they think they've been very smart, but they are smart maybe, but they are caught also, because the moderator knows that he has not added any valid point to what has already been said. So what should you do? Not to be just a balancer, you should add valid points of your own. You may agree with what somebody said, but you should have something extra to give to the audience, more information. So you should have something to give to the group discussion. Then the interrogators. I'm going a little fast, so I want to complete this. The interrogators are people who are always questioning. So they will say, no, I don't think he is right. Why? How can you say that they are right? How can you do this? How can you? What evidence do you have? So they are always questioning because they don't have anything to add. So they think by questioning, by always asking questions, they will be able to hold the limelight, or the attention will be on them. Again, wrong. So you cannot always only ask questions, you should have answers too. So have your own opinion. Questioning others is fine as long as you are able to put up the facts. If they are not able to answer that question, you should be able to ask a question only when you know the answer in a group discussion. And remember, it is still a group discussion, and teamwork. It's not a debate, teamwork. As a team, you have to discuss something. So teamwork is important. It is not to show that somebody is wrong and somebody is less or somebody has no knowledge. It is to show that we are all learning, trying to get some information here. Okay, so it's teamwork. And the silences. Again, you will find at least one or two in every group discussion. The silent one, who will only be looking at what everybody is saying, or sometimes they will not looking, they will just be sitting like this, you know, with their hands folded and looking at the table, or trying to avoid everybody's gaze because they're scared to take look at somebody because they might say, okay, you speak. So they will not even look at somebody, they will just sit silently. So they are called the silencers, and silencers are, sometimes they are, because they do not get a chance to speak, sometimes they have nothing to say, so they are silent. But what must you do? So you should try, if you are a leader, you should try and give a chance to somebody who's trying to speak but is not getting a chance. You can identify such people and say, let us all hold our horses or just listen to one person who has not been able to put in her or his word. Let's listen to what she has to say. So you could take the lead and allow a teammate, a mate from your group discussion table to speak. You can help her to start. So that way you will earn extra points by being very considerate. But then this can backfire. If you see that somebody is very quiet and you ask them to speak, you would and that person has nothing to say, then the joke would be on you, because she would again keep mum or just stare at you and nothing to say. So you should be very careful when you do this. So try to be helpful, but not at the cost to show the other person as somebody who doesn't know anything. So be very careful. Silencers, very rarely are silencers selected in a group discussion, because everybody else was shouting and only this person tried to say something but couldn't say it. Sometimes it happens that that person is selected because nobody wants somebody who's always shouting and fighting and, you know, disrespecting others and already contradicting everybody else. So that at those times, silencers are sometimes lucky to get selected, but not always. So do not be silent in a group discussion. And the leaders, this is what you should aim to be. Who is a leader? Who understands the essence of the group discussion. Why are we doing this topic? What should be the outcome? He knows the objective of that group discussion. And whenever the discussion gets strayed from the topic, they bring it back onto the group discussion. They bring it back on track. Suppose it was a discussion on cell phones. People might get very emotional and say, no, cell phones is because I live in a far off village, and in that village there is no other this thing. Cell phone is the only way I can be safe. My village is very bad. So villages today in India. So suddenly the topic goes towards villages. And then the leader says, I know your villages may be far away from the city, but today we are not discussing about villages, but about cell phones being allowed in colleges or not, and bring it back on track. Then he would be considered a leader. Sometimes, you know, group discussions may become very emotional and then they might digress from the actual topic. So when somebody can bring it back, he is considered a leader who is able to bring it back on track. And try to calm the other participants by sometimes trying to give a chance to others to speak who's not been able to put in a word. That way also, and sometimes when two people have become too argumentative or trying to, you know, prove each other wrong, so the leader can say, okay, I do agree that there could be two viewpoints on this, and we must all agree to disagree, because this is not something, we are not trying to prove something here, we are just trying to discuss something. So he can calm everybody down. He is also considered a leader. So a leader, you need to take the cues from others, in the sense that, like I told you, if you want to be a leader and say, let her speak because she is not speaking, and if she can't say anything, then you would have actually showed her in very poor light. As a leader, you don't want to do that, right? So you should take the cues from others, try to listen carefully to others, and as a leader, you can sum up the group discussion. You can take points from everybody. Conclusion, summarize. When somebody says, okay, we have 1 minute to end it or 1 minute to summarize, a leader can take everybody's point of view. That is why it's important to have a pen and pencil. You can even write down the name of the person and the point he said. Because when you summarize, you have that person's name to say, as Harish said this, because in a group discussion, you have too much going on in your head to remember the names. So if you note it down, if you don't know them, and if you note it down, saying what was the important point he made, and if it was a very good point, it will be actually a bonus point for you to be able to remember his point and mention it in the conclusion. So when you conclude also, a person who concludes should take everybody's point of view and conclude. That is what a leader does. So I think with that, we have 3 types of people: aggressive, passive and assertive. Aggressive people who are always shouting, who think they are only right, who always think that I have the right, I am never wrong. That's not the sort of person we want. This is not the sort of person we want in a group discussion. So we don't want an aggressive person. Passive person who is very quiet, who is swayed by, yes, I think she is right, I think whatever. We will not disagree with everyone and agree with whatever everybody has to say, because he thinks that everybody knows better than him. We don't want a passive person. So what should you be in a group discussion? You should be an assertive person. Assertive person is one who believes in what he says. He also believes in the other, saying he must be saying it because there is some fact about it, some truth in it, and he may not always win. The assertive person may not, whatever he says may not always be right or may not be the only point, but then he listens to everybody else and everybody else wins in the end. So see, the focus of an assertive person is on win-win. It's not like only I should be the best in the group discussion or only I should win. Everybody else wins. Because remember, a group discussion is a team event. So as a team, but you should come out best in the team. Okay? So this is about group discussion. Quick do's and don'ts, knowledge and positive attitude. We already discussed this. Have good knowledge about the topic, alertness and presence of mind. Always be alert and presence of mind when you speak, and good communication skills. We already discussed this. Confidence. You should be confident when you speak. You will be confident if you have good knowledge on that subject and your language is good. So try to have that leadership and team skills. Okay, now I showed you how you can be a leader, so you should have leadership skills and also team discussion, so you should have team skills. And don'ts, do not initiate the discussion without proper knowledge. We discussed this also. Don't snatch somebody else's chance to speak, and do not interrupt others before they complete. Always, manners also matter. Always wait for somebody to complete their sentence before you interrupt. And then shouting or dominating, showing fingers is not good at all. So always wear a smile when you're speaking. And do not show off. You're not the only person who knows everything. So do not show off. And slang and negative gestures. You know, slang words like mom, dad, gonna, wanna, I'm gonna go to the movie tonight. Or do not use these words. It's a formal group discussion. So be formal. Don't say my mom said, my mother said. Okay? So there are so many other things like that. Don'ts. Some of the poses or gestures you should not make while in a group discussion. Pointing fingers or, you know, looking bored expression, oh, I don't like what she's saying. Stop, I don't think you're right. Or, what are you talking about? These gestures are not allowed. Okay, so that was about group discussions. So hope you all made points on all these do's and don'ts and how to be in a group discussion. Thank you. See you all in the next class on Monday. Have a good Sunday. Enjoy yourselves. Bye.